may the collectors never succeed in taking our spirit away. What do you mean by that, Karina?
Well, as you know, Whitley, and you've probably heard from others before, is that this subject, these beings, seem to take, and this is why I called it the collectors, they seem to collect all kinds of things from us, but it's not just on a physical level like our blood and our eggs, the sperm, and stuff like that. This also includes your emotional, your spirit, your soul, so to speak, your essence. I remember specifically one incident where I was inside a ship and there was this huge column in the center of this room, and there were all like hundreds of what seemed to be little thin drawers in there. Anyways, to make the long story short, when I asked what was in there, I was told telepathically that it was the essence of man. And that has stayed with me forever because I don't know exactly what they meant by that. Is it our spirit, our soul, our essence, or is it just DNA? When I got closer to the column, I had a very, very strong feeling that whatever was in there was extremely important to us. I had to know what was in there. I replied that one way or another, I was going to figure out what was in there. And as a couple of them were pulling me away, this taller one, who seemed to be a gray but taller than them and had more of a bony structure in the face area, in the head area, he said to me telepathically, "It is the essence of man."
And you don't know whether it was the essence of a man or the essence of something, some kind of a record of the whole species.
No, I had a feeling this was not just one. This was hundreds, probably thousands, or God knows how many, because there were many, many, many drawers, and this was huge. This wasn't just a small column. This was very, very big.
Because I had the impression in my own close encounter experience that there was some kind of collection taking place.
Absolutely.
I had the feeling at times, Karina, and it was very disturbing, that maybe one of the things that was happening was that they were collecting us, our souls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have that feeling too?
I have to be honest, there is, yes, it's either our soul or, as he said, our essence, our spirit. There is something definitely that they are collecting, which
something
is not
that
on
is,
the physical level.
Yeah, something that is beyond our understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hi, friends. I'm sharing these sessions with you because humanity really needs to understand how the dark side works through us. These are not normal times, and I keep saying this over and over. The infighting that humanity is experiencing is because of these external forces that we cannot see. Is it fair? No. Does it matter? No. In this next series, I really honestly consider an honor to work with Sierra. And this is the first of several sessions that we've done together. Sierra has endured many psychic attacks, and she's wanting to find out why and to put an end to them. And this begs the question, who is Sierra, and why are all of these nefarious beings so interested in her? When we first start working together, we can both see that there's countless soul fragments all over the place. These are soul pieces. These are not complete souls. We work on collecting them, helping them so that they can be restored and go home. The healing and self-preservation to the soul is key in all of this. This is a spiritual war. And I've started this podcast to address soul health. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. At the end of the day, it's really all about soul health and soul well-being. And this is a perfect example of what can happen to souls. Yes, this is scary, but remember, friends, with knowledge comes power. And once we know, we know. When I work with a client, we work as a team. There's power in numbers. By working as a team, we get to validate one another. And we can also say, you know what, this doesn't feel right to me. What about you? By allowing the client to participate, the client also gets to see firsthand what is affecting them in the unseen world. And this gives us our power back because, again, once we know, we know. What I didn't share in this episode in the very beginning was the fact that even before we got started, the dark side, these nefarious beings showed up and tried to stop us. And in the very beginning, I wasn't sure how Sierra would react to knowing to this. I had to feel it out a little bit, but I find out later that she's very much in tune to all of this stuff. As a result, my team and I had to go in and properly remove these dark beings before we could even get started. There were so many of them. And because of this, these soul pieces and soul fragments were released. They were freed. The dark side soul naps us bit by bit, piece by piece, and sometimes entire souls at a time. They're now freed. And you're going to hear in Sierra's astonishment the sheer volume of what we were dealing with. Okay, so why does this happen? I want to share with you what I've learned over the years. And it's worth noting that when the beings who left the light of God, source, energy, the creator, divine, when they left that source, they left the energy source behind also. They no longer have access to the light of God. And this has put us in very precarious positions because they now need an alternative energy source or food source. And they found a really tasty one on this planet with humanity and even with animal souls. Let's look at it this way. We are third dimensional beings. We have a physical body. Time, space, and gravity is very important. This is what gives us our physicality. When we die, originally we're supposed to leave the third dimension of the physicality and ascend to the fourth dimension as a step-up transformer. So we can go to the fifth dimension and higher for our soul healing and soul restoration for the jobs that we do in the higher realms. But when these dark forces, the Luciferic forces, albeit reptilians, grays, whatever you want to call them, it's the same thing. They just have different energetic signatures. When they left the light of God, they needed a step down transformer. They needed us. So they cast this net over that fourth dimension so that they can trap us and they can control us. But when we have a healthy soul and we have the knowledge that we have the power inside of us, they no longer have access to us. And that's why I do this work. We're removing these dark entities properly. Never bind, bury, or cast them away, because when we do that, they can come back. We hand them off to the light beings. We hand them back to God, to source, to the energy source. Because when they are in the hands of the higher realms, then it's up to the higher realms to decide what happens. It's way above my pay grade. And it's way above any human's pay grade, really. But when we bind or bury them, they can break free and they come back at us, or they can come back at your neighbors, or they can come back anywhere. So by properly removing them is key. Recycling isn't going to fix this planet, guys. Removing the dark side will. But it's going to take all of us in a concentrated effort to do so. They've been left unchecked for millennia. All right. This piece here is when Sierra and I first start working together. All right, what are you seeing?
Like all of these souls, they're like lights being drawn into the circle.
Are they soul fragments?
It looks like it.
Yeah, they're pieces.
Like,
they're soul pieces or soul fragments.
Like things stuck in time and space too, like fragments that were stuck and frozen.
Yeah, they're all getting released. These soul fragments are pieces of souls that have been captured. They've been soul napped. And all of us have been heard about people wanting or needing to do soul retrieval work. Well, why do we need to have soul retrieval work done? A lot of times people go to a shaman or some kind of spiritual practitioner for this. Why is this necessary? Because the dark side, be it the Luciferic forces or whatever it is, pick your poison. They need the energy source and they're picking at us. And if they can get us to compromise ourselves, then we give them a piece of our soul, unwittingly, unknowingly. And as we're going through these shows and these episodes, I'll be showing you examples of what a false contract looks like or a contract of omission looks like. Because when these beings present themselves to us in these other astral realms, they are presenting contracts to us, but these contracts generally are not fair or just. There's missing elements and missing pieces to them. And if they can gain access to the human soul, that little bit can feed them for a long time. They can pick apart the souls. They can soul nap these souls. A small amount of soul energy can assist them for a very long while, but it's not hopeless. We can reclaim these soul pieces, these soul elements. And that's exactly what we did here today. It was a very large grouping. There could be soul pieces and elements of the same soul. They could be different souls. There were so many, it was really hard to figure out. And frankly, that's not where our time should be spent. We're supposed to be spending it cleaning things up, handing off these soul pieces to the light side. The light side can figure this out. This is what they are supposed to do. This is one of the reasons why the angelic realms is so important.
Why are there so many?
They're seeing an opportunity for help. And and I have a procedure and a protocol I use and all that stuff. I wasn't able to do what I normally do today. I had to start by collecting the riffraff. When I did that, all of those things all those entities, those dark ones, had access to all of these souls and soul pieces. So once I removed them, they could no longer hold on to them, and they have been freed. And that's why they're coming in right now. When I removed the dark entities, these souls were then freed. It's not much different than the concept of prisoners of war. I'm always talking about the concept of as above, so below. What exists in our dimension can exist in other dimensions. This concept of prisoners of war, when the captors have been removed, the prisoners are freed. I then put them in a containment field, the dark side, so that they cannot run away or harm us or harm those souls. Safety is always, always, always my first priority. For my client, for the souls that we're rescuing, and for myself. In this instance, the dark side knew I was coming, and I had to switch up my normal protocols pretty fast. They knew who I was. They tried to get Sierra to stop from contacting me and reaching out. It took her a long time to do this, I found out later. And they knew, as I said, they knew who I was and what was about to happen to them. So they tried to attack me, and just as Sierra and I had connected. And those attacks that I can sometimes feel on myself are usually in the form of choking or something like that. I was able to remove them. It wasn't that big of a deal. I was able to remove the lion's share of the dark beings right away, but I could also see that something was missed. And I asked Sierra if she noticed it too. This form of validation is extremely important in the unseen world. Again, we're dealing with the non-tangible, non-physical realms. So having a second set of eyes is always important. I'm seeing a lot of different species in that tetrahedron. It's just not just, just reptilian, so to speak. When you look at the water, how do you feel?
Scared.
Okay. There's something in there that's still hiding. That's why I was asking. Do you want to see with me, or do you want me just to remove it? While we were looking around, Sierra and I are in our own form of protection. And as she looks around, she is never, ever leaving this space. We can see out, but these dark beings cannot see in. They cannot see us. And we both see them, and we examine who or what could they be. And I always tell my clients that there's many ways to see. We see with our eyes, we see with our ears, we see with our psychic eye, our third eye. We even see with our emotions. How does something feel? Do you really want to go down that dark path by yourself, or would it feel creepy? That's an intuitive ability, and that intuition is something that a healthy soul always works on developing. There's many ways we can develop our intuition. One of them is you can put down pieces of paper with words on it and feel the energy of the word to see if you pick up the right one. It's a form of a spiritual practice. A pendulum is also a similar way you can do that. But just start to learn to trust your intuition. Keep a journal or a diary or a log of when you're testing your intuition, what you were doing, what was happening, and what was the outcome. We're not going to be 100% right all the time. That's okay. But the more we practice, the better our odds are. And there's these caverns in there.
Okay.
And I just want you to pick a cavern and just kind of look in and see if you can see anything in there.
What is that? It's like definitely not human. I mean,
no, there's.
To say it's a mermaid is no. It's like something not even like that. It's even trying to change shape and form while I'm looking at it.
Yeah, these are, I'm going to say a reptilian hybrid. There's caverns full of eggs in here that I'm removing them as we're looking at this. They're, I don't know if you want to call them sea snakes, or I don't know.
Yeah, like they look like eels, like big, gross eels.
Yeah.
Like.
It's also important to never assume that the job is done. Let's say you have a cockroach infestation. You see the cockroaches and you remove them, but you know you're not done. You have to look in other places to find their breeding grounds or maybe some other dark place that they're hiding in. You have to treat the entire area. This line of work is no different. It's important that we check our work. And when I work with clients, every question I ask is very deliberate and very intentional. I want to see what's happening through my client's eyes. This is key to our success. And then after we discover what was hiding in the water, I, along with my fully vetted spiritual team, my soul tribe, I always vet them. We begin the process of permanently removing these reptilians and collapsing their caverns and tunnels so nothing else can take up residence there. It's no different than having an apartment complex and everybody moves out and you leave the doors open and the windows open and other things move in. We want to remove those spaces, and I have a way to collapse them and remove them and heal them. These caverns or tunnels are used by a wide variety of different beings. It's how they can hide in plain sight. What we're clearing was a reptilian stronghold. They were all over the place and they were trying to utilize Sierra for their benefit. And to Sierra's credit, she never compromised herself. She stayed true to herself. She never sold off a piece of her soul. And she spent a lifetime, maybe more than one lifetime, doing battle with them in many different ways. The facade was to give you beautiful water so we wouldn't look underneath it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They couldn't put a facade over the whole beach, so they chose the water.
Yeah.
When I'm working with a client and something seems so perfect, I know something's up. When there is perfection, we tend to be happy with things and we don't question it and we move on, right? So when there is perfection in something, the beauty is unparalleled. There's something else going on. And I've come to learn one thing about perfection. It can usually be a false flag. It usually masks an issue. And I'm not saying that to be negative, but when there is something that is wholly perfect, what are we missing? What is our ego trying to avoid us dealing with, for example? We're going to keep letting those soul pieces come in. I want to put another golden ring in front of our tetrahedron. And I want you to bring in, call out the names. You can do it mentally if you want, of any of those women or any people that you know that have died. Call them in and tell them to come into that circle because I want to make sure that we cross them over.
Okay.
You're going to do that, and I'm going to go grab a tissue. I'll be right back. The reason that I do this work is that no soul piece, no soul fragment, if it's human or animal or otherwise, should ever be left behind. I've even removed angels that had been soul napped as well. The dark side has implanted within humanity some rather irrational thoughts that we never question. These are program beliefs. One is that when a loved one dies, it's okay for them to hang out with us, that they have unfinished business to do maybe, or that they really aren't ready to cross over, or they don't want to cross over, or that a bad person should rot in hell. This line of thinking is what keeps us inside the matrix. Why? Because when a person dies and they leave the physical body and they do not cross over, it always gives the dark side direct access to that soul's energy. Why do you think they gave us these lines of thinking that, oh, so-and-so died young and they're not ready to cross over? Surely, though, that line of thinking isn't from God source energy. The God source energy, when we leave these physical bodies, wants us to go home so that we can receive the soul healing and soul restoration that we all need and deserve. And folks, I want to be perfectly clear with this. Soul healing and soul restoration will never, ever happen in the fourth dimension. It will never happen to a soul who is stuck between dimensions. It will never happen to a soul who is a ghost. Sierra had had a lot of deaths surrounding her in this lifetime, and I wanted to be really sure we didn't miss anyone. And I will never, ever leave a soldier behind. I always do everything I can to make sure that we get everyone. And just let me know what you see or sense, okay?
So, gray, green dolphin circled around in the water, then jumped out and turned into blondish. I can't tell if it's male or female.
Ask who it is.
Said, present themselves immediately. That's what happened. Whatever. That's the first thing that came to me.
You know what? I'm putting her in a containment field right now. And I want to pour salt on her, and you tell me if she stays or shapeshifts.
She turns back into the dolphin, flipped her head, and turned back into her again.
Okay, so I don't trust this being. I'm requesting that my team take this being to the appropriate realm for processing right now. What happened? What'd you see? Yeah.
That is crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't think it was trying to be for your greater good, but it's not. Shapeshifters happen in all dimensions. This is one reason why I'm always vetting my spiritual team and any other being that I'm communicating with. We even have shapeshifters in our mortal world. Think about the pedophile priest that everybody loves, right? Or maybe it's a police officer or a dentist or whatever. Every profession has a shapeshifter in it. No one profession is exempt from having these shapeshifters. And then we find out that this shapeshifter that everybody loved, this beloved priest or whatever, has been raping children in the name of God. What better way to break a soul, people? What better way to disconnect us from God, right? Than to rape somebody in the name of God. Child abuse, all of these forms of abuse that many of us have endured are also ways that we need to learn how to break out of the matrix. Not every soul that is born on this planet comes from the higher realms. The dark side can also reincarnate us. This is a really important concept. It's something that people aren't comfortable thinking about. Surely every baby is heaven sent, right? Well, do you think Jeffrey Epstein was heaven sent? We need to start really ripping off the Band-Aid and looking at the problem closely. What Sierra witnessed was not something that is so unusual. What she saw was that there was also a living person who was haunting her. I edited out the living person's name for privacy reasons, but this living person had been haunting her. And dealing with the living haunting the living is a little trickier than dealing with the dead or dealing with the dark forces haunting us. But this living person is no longer able to haunt her. Because again, knowledge is power. And at the end of the session, Sierra and I had a very frank and lovely and open conversation. And she mentioned to me that she has missing memories from childhood. So I offered to do a series of regressions with her, and those regressions are absolutely fascinating, and I cannot wait to share them with you. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Well, friends, this has never happened before in a regression. As you noted last time, Sierra and I are doing a series of regressions to help return some missing memories. However, this time the light side interfered. They had other ideas. And what made this so unusual, and I've never had anything even remotely happen like this before, Sierra dropped right into a current life Brazilian farmer's eyes. He was watching a spacecraft, and what this spacecraft was doing left him very confused. And in the beginning, I'm thinking, is this a violation of spiritual law? Do we have the right to be looking through this farmer's eyes? Well, his higher self did give consent to this. And this is what happened.
Above me is a giant craft.
And what does that look like? As you look up at the craft, what does it look like from that point of view?
Square on the bottom, but comes to a point almost like a pyramid at the top.
And do you see any windows or doors or openings on this craft? Do you get a sense of any colorations or signatures on the craft?
No, just the dark bottom of the craft, some shape on top, clouds above it, and a line or a light coming from the center down to the ground.
And is this craft on a planet, or is it up in outer space?
A planet, because there's trees in the background.
Do you know what planet this is? Is this planet Earth?
I believe so.
Okay. And are you looking at this as an observer or a participant?
I'm observing.
Okay. And that body that you're observing with, does it feel male or female, or is that irrelevant?
Male, Brazilian.
Okay. And as you look at your skin, what color is the skin?
Dark.
Okay. Does the body
brown.
Does the body feel old or young?
Mid-40s.
Okay. And is there any type of clothing that you're seeing on this body?
White shirt. Blue pants.
Okay. And is there any jewelry or ornaments on the body also?
No.
Okay.
Hat.
What does the hat look like?
It's a white, flat hat. Brimmed hat. Keep the sun off.
Okay. And are you on the ground right now?
Yeah, I'm a farmer in a field in a deep part of the mountains of Brazil.
Okay. Is there anybody around you? Or are you alone?
No.
Okay. And as you're looking at this craft, what are you sensing, seeing, or experiencing?
At first, red lights from the bottom, like laser on the corners, come down to a point on the ground, the same point. almost creating like an upside down pyramid shape just with a laser beneath the square pyramid object.
And what are
Or
these
side.
layers? What are they focused on?
I can't see that. It's below my vision.
Okay. And how are you feeling as you're watching this?
Startled at first and then mesmerized. The laser lights turn off. No, it's more like they go to a square down and they turn off, and then white flooding light in the same shade as the vehicle goes to the ground.
Have you ever seen lights like this before?
No,
Okay. How far away are you from it?
a couple miles
Okay.
above, sitting almost. And it's like valleys, and I watched it descend. That's how I got a good look at the bottom. Top looks like a pillar you would see from India. Very elaborate.
Do they know you're there?
If they do, they don't care.
Do you know what they're doing there?
They're taking something. People maybe up in the light. No, souls. Souls
And
up in the light.
were they below the ground, or where were these souls kept?
A container beneath the ground.
All right. Do you know anything about the container or types of souls being taken?
The captured ones.
Were they native to the land?
From all over the world.
The light side wanted us to see what was happening. The light side was guiding this session to show us what has been happening to the souls on this planet. This biological living farmer consented to this, letting us utilize his eyes so we could shed the light of the true plight of what's happening to humanity. What types of beings are inside this ship? What is their species?
Epsilon Eridani. The Insectoid.
And do you see any of them?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. What do they look like?
Much like the movie Predator.
Okay.
The long skull. No. The alien thing in that movie. That is like that, but the body is more like
And as they're removing the container of souls, do you hear or see anything that piques your interest?
screams.
Okay. Do you know if it's just one container or are there many?
Thousands.
Okay.
Coming up in the light at the same time.
Do you have an idea of Earth time?
Current Earth time.
Okay. Are you the farmer, or are you viewing this through the farmer?
Through the biological farmer.
Thank you for that information. All right. How long have these insectoids been ravaging souls on this planet?
5,000 years.
5,000 years? Okay. What are they doing with the souls?
Holding them
For what purpose?
to drive an agenda on the planet of Gaia. Eradication of the current species so they may take over and populate.
And that's the agenda?
To feed the dark ones who have this agenda, to help them in their ways. They plan to deceive even them that they work with.
So who are the dark ones? And I need to pause for a moment. These are the unseen entities that affect us all every day. These are the ones whose goal it is to break down our souls. Their goal is to destroy our soul health so that they can overpower us. But as scary as this is, know that knowledge is power. And once we know, we know. Once we know, it gets harder for them to access us. There's many critical beings out there. There's many benevolent beings, good beings out there. And we are sitting in the midst of a spiritual war. We think the spiritual war is on this planet. Well, the spiritual war is happening in many dimensions. Here's the deal, though, guys. We can no longer afford to wait and sit on the sidelines to see what's going to happen. Because if we don't pick a side, one will be chosen for us. Let me repeat. If we don't pick a side, one will be chosen for us. That abrogates your free will. What side do you choose? Who are the other dark ones?
Group of private businessmen on the planet who hold the power.
How did they get the power?
Long plan of techniques to remove sovereignty from human beings, feed a negative consciousness, encourage negativity, strife, and war, an attempt to lower population rates in hopes of taking over the planet.
What do they gain when they take the planet?
All resources.
Does Earth have more resources than most planets?
Yes. Quantum, physical, and spiritual.
What do they use the souls for in these containers?
They feed.
If you follow my social media posts, you'll hear me discuss the concept of the dark entities and how they use us as soul food. When these beings fell from the light of God, they all of a sudden found themselves without a food source. The light of God is an energetic source. Everything is energy. They no longer had access to that energy. And now they need a new form of energy. These beings fell from the heavens, fell from the 5th dimension and above. They're now residing in the 4th dimension. We live in the 3rd dimension. Our 3rd dimension is the land of physicality. We need time, space, and gravity to have these physical experiences. When we leave these bodies, we're supposed to, by the way, these bodies are like rental units. We don't keep them forever, but the better we take care of them, the bigger our deposit is when we leave. We live in the third dimension. We need to, when we leave the bodies, go from the third to the fourth dimension to the fifth dimension to go home, the higher realms. Well, this fourth dimension was hijacked by these dark beings because they needed a food source. They saw us and they're like, you know what? We can do this. We can use their energy. We can use humanity's energy as a food supply. What this does is it stops us from reincarnating from the higher realms. Yes, not all reincarnation happens from the heavens. Not every baby is heaven sent. Think of a serial killer. Think of Jeffrey Epstein. Were those souls heaven sent? No, they came back here more and more broken each time. Bad things happen to good people. So once we know, we know. Once we know, we can cross them over. Every soul needs to be crossed over. I say this over and over. The dark side wants soul energy. They want ghost energy. But when we can cross these souls over to go back home to the heavens, to the higher realms, they lose a food source. And that's really important to understand. When they lose the food source, they become weaker. There are, however, groups out there that are helping us with this spiritual war. There's a lot of benevolent beings there. It's rather complicated, but they're working with us to assist us in the best possible outcome. Looking at the insectoids and the other groups, such as the Greys, we know they utilize the souls to feed off of them. What else do they utilize humanoid souls for?
Repopulation.
Repopulation where?
On the planet, a recycling of souls.
So when
to
they
drive a certain consciousness on the planet.
So they're responsible for keeping the consciousness of the planet in a status quo format?
Yes.
Okay. Are they finding it a difficult struggle to keep the consciousness? Okay. Is this why they need to depopulate the planet?
Yes. The most important. As humanity's consciousness raised, they've utilized every means they can to stop the consciousness from growing out of their control. It's about frequency.
When we or groups of people or beings can recapture the humanoid souls and send them back to source, does that thwart their plan?
In this endeavor, a soul can be lost. The most effective way to reunite a soul is to send it to its higher self, the one governing the experience of this particular soul.
What happens when the soul is separated from the higher self?
Fracturings, duplication, attempted duplication can be made.
Is this how they create super soldiers?
Yes. Fracturing of the mind, of the consciousness, creates multiple dualities of this particular soul fractured in pieces. In certain souls, they want to utilize this towards multiple nefarious uses.
As I said before, reincarnation is not always governed by the higher realms. We've been programmed to believe this, but who programmed us to believe this? Well, surely it wasn't God. Surely the dark side, if they have us thinking that every soul comes from heaven, then there's no problem, right? So this is one of the lies that have been perpetuated on humanity. It keeps us within the matrix. These nefarious beings can also reincarnate us. So if you have a loved one who's died, you need to make sure they cross over. You can request a team of angels to have them cross over. You can send me an email and I can send you some information on how you can do it. Take your power back. We don't need to just let the soul languish. We've been programmed to believe that maybe they have unfinished business, or maybe they weren't ready to go, or they were just a bad soul and they don't deserve to cross over. So let's rethink how we do our business so we can gain our soul sovereignty back. Because when a soul reincarnates from that lower astral, those lower realms, it never receives a soul healing and restoration. The 23rd Psalm means something, people. He restoreth my soul. Lo, behold, I shall walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I shall fear no evil. Well, if there's no evil, why fear it? Well, there is evil. When a soul reincarnates from these lower realms, they come back fractured, they come back broken. They come back with a spiritual team that is not optimal for their soul health. Many times their moral compass is missing. Their moral compass is broken. These are the kids that start torturing animals at a young age. That is not normal. This is how we get serial killers. This is how we get pedophiles. They keep coming back here more and more broken. The goal of these dark beings is to keep the consciousness of the planet on a lower level so that they can retain control of humanity and this planet. When we learn how to connect to our higher selves, it strengthens our soul. It strengthens our connection to God, to the divine, to the creator. It creates the resistance the dark side can't handle. What exactly is the higher self?
It is the one responsible for the collection of lifetimes and experiences.
As you're telling me this, you're showing me, or my team is showing me, the higher self and the conscious self and all the bodies of that self, almost in a string theory format.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm seeing literally strings and pieces being separated out, but they're connected to the higher self.
Yes.
So when these insectoids or grays or whomever they disconnect that soul from the higher self, they now own these soul particles. Is that correct?
And can direct that soul's future from that moment forward. Yes.
Thank you. Very good information. Thank you. Now that they have this soul energy and it's disconnected from the higher self, can we
be reprogrammed to do whatever it is they want it to?
Okay. How does the higher self get those soul particles back, or doesn't it?
Through time and concentrated effort, and through support team. Each soul has their own tribe, their own support team that they come in with. That support team can help reunify that soul with their higher self.
Do there need to be rescue missions of sorts to collect these canisters of souls?
Yes.
Okay. Is that what I do at night?
Yes.
Who else does that at night?
You have a team of 30 directly connected to you throughout the world.
Okay.
Does the same work.
Thank you. So from these soul fragments or segments that they create by separating the higher self, do they create clones?
Yes, in an attempt to house these new identities, carry out their plans.
And do they also create the altars?
Yes, this is the programming I mentioned before. Like a clean slate to be able to put in whatever they want.
So is a clone also an altar?
Yes, by pure definition of creation.
And an altar is also a clone.
An altar is a fragment off of the original soul.
And the big question is what is higher self? I'm always asking questions. I always want to know these answers. And while I know what higher self is, I still wanted to ask because maybe there's a different element or aspect that we don't know about. Or maybe they're telling us a lie. So a big part of this is trying to figure out what's true and not true. Whatever it is for you, listen to what rings true for you and ask why. And throughout this session, I can see through Sierra's eyes. It helps me to know what's true and not true. And in this case, it was really helping me to know who was speaking through Sierra. It's because of this session, I have redirected the intentions of my work. I have seen this over and over, and it is very, very real. These beings, if they can separate our soul from our higher self, if they can separate us from God, so God's source, they can have pieces and aspect of our soul. This is important to know, and I've seen this many times. Our souls can be sliced and diced. They can be soul napped. What we saw today in this session were thousands and thousands of souls that were literally soul napped. One of the concepts about homeopathy is the concept of as above, so below. This is an energetic medicine, homeopathy. So if we have kidnapping on our physical mortal realms, a child is kidnapped or somebody's abducted, that same concept rings true of the soul. The soul too can be soul napped. And this was a huge rescue mission to retain and return these soul pieces, soul fragments, and return them back to God, back to the higher realms for the soul healing and soul restoration. Recycling is not going to save the planet, friends, but restoring our soul, restoring humanity will. Thank you for listening, and there will be more in the next episode as well.